All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Exonation, we've all met women who are intelligent, educated, and successful. Except in matters of the heart. Why are so many professional women striking out when it comes to finding a mate? Well, my guest this hour, Jennifer Granger, is a sought-after life coach and author of Feminine Lost, Why Most Women Are Male. Now, Jennifer is generating a lot of buzz and controversy with her assertion that modern women have forgotten how to be feminine. Whoa! Joining me now from Australia is Jennifer Granger. And Jennifer, welcome to the X Zone.
Hello, Rob. Thank you for having me on your show.
It's great having you with us. You're causing a buzz by saying that modern women have forgotten how to be feminine. Ouch.
I don't think they meant to forget, and I don't think they meant to disconnect from their feminine, Rob. I think life has done it for them. They're just so overcommitted now, so busy, they don't have a choice. A lot of women don't have a choice.
Well, it's a fast-paced society. Mom and dad have to work these days, and, when a woman is out in the workplace, it's true, it's totally different than it was even 20 years ago. So how does a woman keep up with being feminine while pursuing a career in corporate America or corporate Australia or anywhere in the world these days?
Rob, my feeling is that they have to be conscious that they're feminine first. It's really an awareness thing. It's like, you know what, I need to take time for myself. I need to go and do that yoga class. No, I have to cancel that meeting and, cut things down. I always say you need to reprioritize your life, because if you're quite capable, and many women are very capable, they just tend to do more and more and more, and that will cause a disconnect with the feminine, and they become very powerfully masculine, because the masculine side is your doing side.
Now, in my opinion, men and women are unequivocally equal, but there's a difference. So how do you compensate for this difference but maintain equality?
It's difficult. It's really difficult. We find ourselves in a situation where women are treated equally, but they're treated equally as men. And I think women haven't done themselves a lot of favors by not bringing their feminine side to the table. And, they have to assert that. I mean, it's strange to say assertion and feminine in the same sentence, but they have to sort of assert it within themselves first. In the Return to Grace in the book, I said, really, your feminine side is that unseen side, but it is the side where you make your decisions first. So they have to make that decision within themselves to say, that is what I'm going to be. And I'm not going to move from that. That's the beautiful thing about the feminine. It isn't weak. People have to get over the process. And I think a lot of women have the misconception that the feminine is weak, passive, and submissive. And it just isn't.
I know, and as I've talked over the years to audiences all around this beautiful planet of ours, in my opinion, the greatest leaders in history have always been women. Because
you're right.
Because of their compassion, because of their wisdom, because they don't act without thinking, where men, my God, before GPSs came out, we had a hard time just listening to our wives with a map in their hands. We knew everything. But history...
Right, Rob. You're right.
Yeah, but history shows, and history has proven, that women make better leaders. And I think that when you have this macho attitude that so many men have, that they're incapable of understanding, hey, listen, if you're wrong, you're wrong. If somebody is better and more qualified, no matter what their sex is, they deserve the job. And, moms who are workers are professionals at work, but they're also professionals at home. And it's hard to understand why in today's society women are having such a problem.
Yeah. Well, my feeling is that macho man is a dying breed, Rob. I mean, his days are numbered because we are living in a time where it is a level playing field.
Yeah.
And also we need that balance now. We don't want the stereotypical macho man. But we also don't want an over-masculinized woman because we live in an over-masculinized world. And that's why we have so many wars. In the olden days, women were always the peacekeepers,
Yep.
and they would always be the voice of reason. They would always temper a man's desire for war. That's the way it was, and I think we need to go back to being that.
I agree with you. You and I have to take a 2-minute commercial break. We'll be right back. X-Zone Nation. Jennifer Granger is our very special guest. She's the author of Feminine Lost. Her website is www.femininelost.com. That's www.femininelost.com. And Jennifer and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break. Don't go away. Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com. Named one of the world's greatest psychics, Elizabeth Joyce is now giving readings worldwide via Skype. Elizabeth Joyce is recognized for her clairvoyant ability to help find missing persons, her analysis of dreams, past life regression work, mediumship, and her accurate predictions. Elizabeth has been a frequent guest on the X-Zone radio show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, now for several years. For an appointment with Elizabeth Joyce, call 201-934-8986 or Skype at elizabeth.joyce. And for more information, you can always visit Elizabeth Joyce online at www.new-visions.com.
Do you have a dis-ease that you would like to alleviate through a natural means? Have you been contacted by angels, ghosts, or even extraterrestrials and want to validate these experiences? Or would you simply like to speak with someone who can help you find your life's purpose? I'm Dr. Joseph Mara, and I'm offering my services free of charge for first-time clients contacting me during the month of April. These free consultations include angel card readings, guided meditations, life coaching, and energy healing. If you have always wanted to explore these types of experiences but were skeptical or simply could not afford them, then take advantage of this free special offer. Contact me through my website, aguidinglight, spelled lite.com, to schedule your consultation today. Until then, I offer you love, light, and laughter.
X-Zone Nation, Jennifer Granger is my very special guest of this hour. Her website is www.femininelost.com, and she's the author of Feminine Lost. It's a book that, we're going to let Jennifer describe it. Jennifer, how would you describe your book, and why did you write Feminine Lost?
Well, first of all, I'll describe why I wrote the book, Rob, was that I'd spent a lot of years, well over 20 years in the corporate world. And I'd watched things change, and I've been on the planet long enough also to have been part of the feminist movement and all of that. And it was an amazing time. It was wonderful. I migrated to Australia in 1987. And I found the most incredible chauvinism I'd ever encountered in my life. I couldn't tell them I had a child when I applied for jobs.
My gosh.
I wasn't allowed to join certain associations that I'd been a member of for 10 years that were global organizations. And I struggled. I really, really struggled. And I was in a bad position. I was a migrant. I had a small child, and I had to work. So I became incredibly observant, very, very observant. Every nuance that happened in the workplace, I used to notice, write it down, work it out. And I eventually took a very big contract up to the north of the country here. And I found, and that was in the late 90s, a worse situation than I'd arrived in Melbourne in the late 80s. And I couldn't believe it. But I just put my head down, worked harder and harder. And one day I collapsed in the shower. Just collapsed. I had no warning. I just went down, and that was it. And that was chronic fatigue. I just realized that I'd overworked, overcompensated, and I was now enforced rest. And it's a long way back from chronic fatigue. It takes quite a few years. And while I was recovering, I decided really investigating what actually went wrong, what went wrong with me. And I looked at all the women in my circle and, my colleagues, my peers. All of us were working. Most women were professional women. Everybody was working pretty hard, and many women were exhausted. I also had been studying spiritual studies because I was an identified intuitive by the age of 7. So all the way through my working life, I was always studying, and I had studied under a shaman for 10 years here. And most major philosophies in the world subscribe to the fact that as human beings, we all carry two energies. We are dual beings. We all carry a masculine and a feminine energy. And I just started looking at that, and it was a big process getting well, and I could see how I'd overworked my masculine. And I had disconnected from my feminine energy. It was out of necessity in my case. And then I started observing other women. Some of them it was out of necessity. Many of them it had become a choice. They actually enjoyed what they were doing. They enjoyed the power that went with it. And they didn't realize what was going on. But they would turn up because I then started my transformational coaching practice. And these were my peers and my colleagues who turned up, for a work-life balance, as they put it. And it was astonishing to them, and it was astonishing to me what we were actually doing to ourselves as women. And how in our strength, because our masculine had become such a strength, and we were doing so well. Most of us were doing really well in our professional lives. But on the other hand, we were lonely, frustrated, and sad in a lot of cases. And it was so interesting. So I kept copious notes. Everything was documented. And at one stage, I started getting this rush of women in their late 30s who suddenly wanted babies. And I said, girls, what have you been doing? It's a bit late, because most of them didn't even have partners. So they were without a partner, they were without a life partner, and they were without children. And many were now thinking they were looking down the barrel of a very lonely old age. So then they were all trying to have babies, and more times than not, Rob, they weren't successful.
Oh, gosh.
It takes time to have children. It really takes time. It's not a spur-of-the-moment decision.
Nope.
And then a lot of them were coming to me and saying, well, we don't need a partner. Oh, that really upset me. I just thought, this isn't quite right. I started to feel the imbalance. It was so imbalanced to say, well, you don't need a partner to have a child. Well, what about the child?